Who should the 49ers pick at 3? Which quarterback should they take?
Who they should take and who I think they're going to take are, two different guys. Who I think they should take is Justin Fields. I think, and you kind of touched on it when we were kind of preparing to talk about this, but I think there is a big time like over analyzing of the quarterback position. So you have a lot of that going on, especially with what they're doing with, Justin Fields. At the end of the day, man, he does a lot of good things, like great. And, he's you nitpick anybody, all these quarterbacks have these things that they don't do very well or things that they need to improve on. He's just like them. But I think overall with what he does, man, he's a baller. And he does a lot of things extremely well, and he has a really high ceiling. So if it were me, it would be definitely Justin Fields.
Blake, who you think?
Yeah, I'm with him on that. I'd go Fields as well. I think Lawrence and Wilson are probably 1 and 2. Like those seem to be the consensus there. I feel like Fields was number 2 for a while until the offseason, and Fields started falling for some reason. It was Wilson climbing. But yeah, I'd go Fields here. I think he'd slot in really well. Insane arm talent, played in a ton of big time games and really showed out. And I think he would really fit the mold of the Shanahan quarterback and some of the things that he has to offer.
Yeah, I hate to agree with everybody and go 3 for 3, but for me, it's Justin Fields all the way. It's always been Justin Fields. I think that we're going to get into a lot of the over-analyzing and the criticisms of him. Some of them are true, but I'd argue that they're a bit overblown given that other quarterbacks in this draft also have those issues. But yeah, I think it's Justin Fields all the way. He's really tough. He's started 2 years. He's been a superstar. One thing I've really liked about Justin Fields, and I'll say something different, I think something people haven't talked about, is that he's the only quarterback in this draft that's gone through real adversity. And I think that means something. We saw him play poorly against Northwestern and Indiana. Now, you can go back into those games and really point out that there were a few plays, the coaching. I didn't think they had a great offensive game plan against those defenses and all of that. But overall, he statistically had a poor game. And we saw him immediately right after go against Clemson under the bright lights. Everybody's watching and put on a show and throw 6 touchdowns. I feel like seeing that is something that's special because we didn't get to see that, right? I mean, Trevor Lawrence from day one was supposed to be the superstar, kind of won the national championship as a freshman. And since then, there hasn't been a real response to adversity, or he hasn't gone through adversity. Zach Wilson had a shoulder injury, but last year, I wouldn't say he was really put in any adverse situations. Trey Lance, kind of same thing. And I think that's really underrated with Justin Fields. And the way he responded, I think, is another reason why he should be the Niners pick.
Yeah, I think that's big time. You definitely want to see how a guy reacts when he gets put in situations that are a little bit uncomfortable. Even games like Indiana, I think that's one of the games along with the Northwestern game, but especially Indiana, that was a game where a lot of people are like, well, he looked uncomfortable. He had the turnovers, right? And even in the midst of that, like having to go through the adversity from that game, and you talked about seeing how he responded later down the line, I would say like, well, how did he respond even in that game where he wasn't playing his best? And I mean, we're talking about a guy who still had like 400 yards of total offense and 3 touchdowns. So, even in the game where it wasn't his best, he still did a lot of things to help, his team be able to win. I think even that's important, right? Like, are you going to be a guy who just tanks it when it's not going great for you? Or are you going to be a guy who, okay, there were some things that didn't go well, but I'm still going to be able to make plays for my team? I think he did that really in all the games. I mean, even in the Alabama game when, that was a tough game for him, a tough game for Ohio State altogether. And even then, I mean, still continuing, to battle, and he made some great throws and made some plays with his legs in that game. And that's what I would like out of my quarterback, right? Like we've seen certain games from guys. Think about like Kirk Cousins, right? Not style of quarterback in the divisional round playoffs when, okay, well, the running game isn't working because the 49ers are shutting down Dalvin Cook. What's going to be your changeup? How are you going to do? What are you going to do to make plays for your team? And Kirk Cousins just could not do it because that's it. Like if it's not working like within the game plan, it's just not going to work at all. And I think guys like, Justin Fields and those dynamic type of players, they kind of allow you to have a little bit of change up to maybe get things back on track.
Right.
And I was going to say, Vish, to your point, sorry.
Go ahead.
I would disagree with the Zach Wilson saying he hasn't gone through adversity because, I mean, at the start of the season, he has had injuries. And then at the start of the season, there was a supposed like quarterback competition, and I think that is like some sort of adversity that he did have to face. Yeah, I guess you could say during the year, like their team was obviously not in a lot of super close games, or they won a lot. So I think in that sense, no. But I think in the fact that, he has had to fight back from injury and wasn't always the best his first couple of years. This was kind of his last year was really his year where he like looked like a first round pick.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right about that. And I would say same thing with Trey Lance from the standpoint of he did have that really rough showcase game. And you actually, Croc, really honed in on this point to me yesterday, where it was something I feel like I haven't talked about because I'm just lower on Trey Lance than most people, is the fact that, yeah, he was struggling to throw the ball and things weren't going right. But man, he keeps competing and he found a way to win that game with his legs, and he found a way to make things happen with other parts of his game. So to be fair, Trey Lance also went through it. And then obviously Mac Jones staying in Alabama for 3 years. So maybe Trevor Lawrence is the only guy that's really not seen real adversity throughout his time, I would say, maybe in college football. But I do think Justin Fields, as you guys have both mentioned, I think the response is what's special. And whatever you want to say about him as a quarterback, right, we can get into all those nuances. I think the one thing you can say with Justin Fields is he's tough as hell. He's a big-time competitor, and he never quits. And I think that those are really underrated, intangible aspects of an athlete, and he carries them in spades.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. And that's the toughness and seeing how guys respond to adversity. Those are all great points because a lot of these guys, they typically don't like have a lot of adversity in their lives until they get to the NFL. And then that's when you a lot of times get to find out how they handle that. And some guys handle it well, some guys don't. The guys that don't, they kind of tank it, maybe don't work as hard because their talent has kind of gotten them through that point. And then that's how you see guys end up being like bust. A lot of times when guys are bust, it's not because of a lack of talent. A lot of it is because of, just certain not truly understanding what it means to be a professional. So, seeing a guy like Justin Fields, him transferring and, still figuring out him going to bat with head-to-head with, the Big Ten and getting football played in that conference, those type of things, I think that speaks to kind of the type of, leader and character that he has.
Absolutely.